Hello class, good day. So I welcome you to another section of this class. This is module 8 under the course automobile driving methods. And in this module we'll be looking at global driving, that is the laws, the licensing and etiquette in global driving. So the sorry about that. So we'll be looking at we'll be looking at the global driving, that is the laws and licensing, then the etiquette when we are talking about driving globally. So for the contents of the module, we have one to be comparative driving laws, where we'll be comparing driving laws from different countries, between different countries. So and these include the UK, Nigeria, USA, Canada, European Union, and Australia, and the likes, and so on and so forth. And the next content will be key differences. In this comparison, we'll be looking at the key differences, that is the speed limit, the right of way, and legal limits. Then the third mode content, we have international road signs and defensive driving principles. And lastly, we have road etiquette and sharing the road safely. That's about the the contents of the module. So now let's move on to the main contents, where we have left versus right, that is the global divide. So under that, we have right hand traffic, that is you drive on the right hand side, and in doing that we have the steering wheel to be on the left side. Example of countries that use this system is USA. We have USA, Canada, Nigeria, European Union, China. If you notice that the steering side is always at the left side of our cars or of our vehicles. Then in the steering side is at the left side. Then the traffic that we follow is the right hand traffic. We always ensure that the right hand is what we use for everything. Then the overtaking is on the left. The roundabout includes clockwise movement. So now we're in a situation where we have left hand traffic. That is, we have left hand traffic. So in this scenario, we drive on the left. So steering wheel is mostly at the right side. That is like the opposite of the situation of these countries like USA and Nigeria that we've mentioned initially. So this is like the opposite of it, whereby we have the steering wheel to be at the right side instead of the left side that we have above. So the steering is at the right side. And examples of country that is practicing this is UK, we have Australia, we have Japan, we have India, we have South Africa, and the likes. So an overtaking is always on the right and not on the left, unlike Nigeria and USA. So now we have roundabout to be counter-clockwise movements. So adaptation challenges, we have roundabout navigation feels reversed, turns require conscious correction, and lane positioning must be relearned. Recommendation, we have you practice on quiet rules first when switching systems. That is, we are switching from one system to the other. So let's move on to the speed limits and enforcement worldwide. Selected jurisdiction, we have UK, we have Nigeria, we have USA, Canada, European Union, Australia, and the likes. So now let's look at the speed limits for these different countries. And for UK, we have 70 mph motorways, strict camera enforcement. We have camera that is strictly monitoring that. In Nigeria, we have 100 km/h highways, and under that we have speed limiters required for commercial vehicles. In USA, we have 55 to 85 mph interstate. It varies by state, so it depends on the state. And in Canada, we have 90 to 110 km/h on the highways. Photo radar is common there. Then in the EU, European Union, we have 110 to 130 km/h motorways. Then we have strong crossbar enforcement there. So in Australia, we have 100 to 110 km/h on highways, strict enforcement, and heavy fines. So now let's look at the enforcement methods. In a fixed camera, we have that in UK, European Union, and Australia. So then we have average speed cameras. We have it in UK and EU. Then we have a mobile radar or leader, that is worldwide. Then we have fully checkpoints. So this is the enforcement methods. We have fully checkpoints to be in Nigeria. Many developing nations usually do this. That is, most African countries, this is what they do, because unlike the UK and the likes, where the camera is doing, we have fixed camera doing most of that. So just like we can see on the image below, where we have the 40 km/h symbols and the likes. So this is mostly done in this let's take Nigeria as an example. You'd have seen the limits, speed limits in each on the roadside when you are moving. So and then we have police checkpoints to make sure to confirm that. So So let's move on to the next subtopic, where we have right of way rules and cultural norms. So we have under that we have the intersection rules, the US or Canada. For that is under US or Canada, we have four-way stops: first arrived, first served. That is, the first arrived will be first served. In UK and European Union (EU), we have marked priority, or marked equals to priority to right. You give priority to the right. Then in Nigeria, we have officially priority to right when negotiated. The official priority is mostly given to the people at the right side. So let's look at the Australia, for instance. They give way to right at unmarked intersections. Now, roundabout priority, we have left-hand traffic. Left-hand traffic, we have they yield to vehicles from your right. When in the case of right-hand traffic, I believe we'll be able to justify what left-hand and right-hand traffic is in our previous slides. So now right-hand traffic, they yield to vehicles from your left. Now moving on to cultural driving styles. That is, it is route focused, where we have countries like Germany, UK, Australia. They have predictable and they are law abiding. So our negotiation focus, we have Nigeria, Southern Europe, Asia. So the cultural driving style is flexible and assertive in this side. So let's look at moving on to legal alcohol limits. So comparison in the strictest is 0.00%. That is 0% to zero tolerance. Where we have situations like Nigeria, theoretically, as it is stated, which we don't know, we can't say if it is practical enough, but theoretically Nigeria does not it's very strict when it comes to legal alcohol limits. So drivers under 21. So for drivers, it is in USA, it is driver under 31. You don't drink. They make sure that they don't get drink. Then while driving, then we have learner or provisional drivers in Australia. So low limits, we have 0.02 to 0.03%. So we have that in some European countries, and professional drivers in Australia. So standard limits, we have 0.05%. Then we have that in most European Union countries and in Australia too, but with full license. And we have it in Canada. The administrative penalties begin in this stage. So higher limits, we have 0.08%. So where we have here in countries like USA, and we have criminal limits. We have Canada criminal limits. Then you have UK too, except Scotland. So now the penalties is fines, license suspension, imprisonment, increased insurance. It depends on the nature of how it comes. So let's move on to licensing systems and international permits. So just like we can see in the picture beside in this slide. So let's look at the licensing processes. UK, for instance, we have the theory plus hazard perception, then practical test. Theory first, then the hazard perception, then the practical test. In Nigeria, we have the written test first, then the practical, then the biometric capture. In USA, it is followed as it varies by stage. It actually varies by stage, where we have the knowledge, and then we have the vision, then the road test. In Canada, we have graduated licensing from learner to novice, then to full. In most European Union countries, we have it in this format: harmonized standard, strict lesson requirements. Then in Australia, we have learner test, then hazard perception, then provisional license. Then let's move on to international driving permits, which is the IDP. Just as the name implies, this is not a license, but only a translation of your own license. So it is required in many non-English speaking countries, and it must be carried with valid home country license obtained from authorized agencies before travel. So this is mostly by strangers that just go to another state. So you must be able, at least it is not required in many non-English speaking countries, and it must be carried with valid home country license. So let's move on to the international road signs and recognition. So these are the different road signs that need to be addressed and recognized internationally. We have Vienna Convention 1968, and they standardize these signs globally, except USA, Canada, Australia, which use variations, and we have shapes and colors. They have specific meaning. So universal shapes to recognize, that is generally universally accepted. We have the octagon, which is stop. It means stops worldwide, not generally in the whole world. Then we have the inverted triangle, that is yield or give away worldwide. We have the circle with red border, that which implies prohibition. Then we have the triangle pointing up, triangle that points up, which implies warning. Then we have the rectangle, which is passing information. Then we have the diamond, warning in US or Canada, priority road in Europe. Common international signs is for the no entry, we have red circle with white bar to be no entry. Speed limit, we have the circular with the number of the speed limit, as we've seen that in our previous slides. Then we have the slippery road. Then in the slippery road, we have skidding car symbols and the pedestrian crossings. Then we see people by walking person as the symbol signs as common. These are the common international signs. So let's look at defensive driving principles universally. These are the core strategies for any countries. So we have one, scanning 12 to 15 seconds ahead, mirrors every 5 to 8 seconds. Make sure you're checking your mirror every now and then. Space management 2 to 3 seconds following distance minimum. Escape route always. Then we have speed adjustments, conditions over posted limits, smooth input. Communication is also another defensive driving principle. It is very essential. Make sure you signal early, appropriate on, use eye contact when possible. Then we have visibility. Make sure that the headlight is on, avoid blind spots, staying in blind spot, position for maximum visibility. Then we have anticipation, where we have under that we have assume others will make mistakes. Always assume, what if thinking, what if he does this, what if this driver in my front does this, or the one at the back does this. So you also always assume and anticipate. We have emotional controls. We never drive angry, or road rage prevention. So now let's move on to country specific considerations. We have Nigeria, for instance. We should be expecting unpredictable behavior, expect potholes and mixed traffic. So in Australia, we should expect wildlife hazards, vast distances, road trains and the likes. In UK, we should expect narrow roads, extensive roundabouts, speed cameras and the likes. In USA, large vehicles is very common there, right turns on red and four-way stop. So lane discipline and margin etiquette. So we have lane usage norms under this, where we have UK, Europe, Australia. So inside lane for normal driving, outer lane for overtaking. So in these countries. In USA, it varies by state, as we know. So generally slower vehicles keep right. And in Nigeria, we have flexible in practice. Defensive awareness is very crucial. So now, margin techniques. You have the zipper march, the early march, and the likes. So let's have emergency vehicles universally pull over and stop for flashing lights and sirens. You pull when there is emergency, you pull over, then you stop for flashing lights and sirens. Don't stop in intersections or follow closely. Some countries from clear center lane, that is the emergency corridor. Just like we have seen in this lane discipline, we have the margin etiquette, then parking etiquette, as we have seen the incorrect and correct ways in the pictures in this slide. So now let's look at headlights and horn etiquette. That is the headline and horn etiquette. The usage. So headlights usage, for instance, we have high beams. So dark roads only. When there are dark roads, switch for oncoming or following vehicles, so that you on it for the oncoming and following vehicles to be aware. So we have during the daytime running lights. It is required in Europe, EU, Canada, Nordic countries and the likes. Flashing headlights. You flash headlights to the to coming drivers or following vehicles to serve as a warning or go ahead gesture. Where we have in UK, as we have in UK and Australia. In Nigeria or Asia, it is used for general communication, not necessarily aggressive. So when it is unsure, assume it means caution or warning. Whether when it is assumed, you just know that this person is trying to caution you or warn you for something. Then we have the horn etiquette to be in UK, Europe, Australia. It is minimally used. It is mainly used for warning only. Then in countries like Asia, Africa, Middle East, Latin America, It is used for normal communication. In fact, they use it for greeting in Africa, especially in Nigeria, as an example. So the appropriate use: warning of danger, alerting drifting driver, poor visibility. That's the appropriate use. Inappropriate use is anger, rushing others, and frustration. And just we can't just be only when we are angry and the likes. So this can create something else entirely. So now let's move on to sharing roads with vulnerable users. When I'm talking about vulnerable users, these are weak users compared to us. We have pedestrians, we have cyclists, we have motorcyclists, we have horse riders and large vehicles, that is the truck and the buses. So pedestrians are those that are crossing the roads, as we have seen in the image in front of it, where we have a lady crossing the roads, and the buses and vehicles, they have to wait. So stop at the crosswalks. Extra caution in school or residential zones. When you are in school or residential area, reduce speeds and poor visibility. So in cyclists, we have 1 to 1.5 meter passing distance. Make sure there is at least 1 to 1.5 meter passing distance between you. Expect sudden movements around obstacles. So let's move on to motorcyclists now. Motorcyclists, you have check blind spots consistently. Then you give full lane space. Increase following distance. For the horse riders, you have to slow down significantly. Pass wide and gentle. Follow riders and signals. Then for the large vehicles, you have to respect massive blind spots, never cut in front, and allow space for wide turns. Now let's move on to professional courtesy and communication. We have one to be showing appreciation, that is how do you communicate professionally while driving. In showing appreciation, it requires quick hand wave with hazard flashlights, 2 to 3 flashes, just flashlights 1 2 3 to show appreciation, or that's the means of communication. Or you nod of acknowledgement to show the acknowledgement, sorry. Then when you want to apologize for mistakes, you have hands up gesture, sorry. Hazard flashlight also. If serious error, pull over. If safe to apologize, you have to pull over and then you apologize safely. Parking etiquette, you have to stay within marked spaces. Never block disabled spots without permits. Respect loading zones and time limits. Never obstruct fire hydrants and lanes. These are very essential when we are parking. These are the etiquettes of parking. Then conflict avoidance. In order to avoid conflict, remain calm and polite. Do not escalate issues or situations, and report aggressive drivers to the authorities if it is necessary, and your safety should come first. In conclusion, this module, at this module 8, I've been able to emphasize that safe driving is not only about knowing the rules, but also understanding how culture, courtesy, and awareness shape road behavior across the different countries. So now it's also been able to address that drivers around the world, they should follow different styles. So they follow different styles. Some rule focus, other negotiation focus, but safety improves when motorists observe local norms while maintaining responsible habits. Proper lane discipline, cautious merging, giving way to emergency vehicles and the like. And it has been also been able to also address the fact that you should give respect for pedestrians, not only the pedestrian but cyclists, motorcyclists, horse riders, and light vehicles. Overall, good road etiquette is grounded in patience, respect, communication, and